Well, it's the unknown mechanic back with my squeaky stool, and this channel is for the shop owner who doesn't have mechanics that are up to par, and the owner doesn't trust them to do a difficult repair. And it's also for the aspiring mechanic who wants to raise their level of proficiency and take on some of the more difficult jobs, so you can watch and learn the right tools, techniques to get the greatest chance of success. And also the homeowner do-it-yourselfer who may want to tackle this job on your own, or at least if you see how it's done properly, might intimidate you and give up and take it into a real shop. But today we have a professional Stihl chainsaw. It's an MS661RC M, and there's an emission sticker on here that has a date of manufacture of 5/22, and it belongs to Thrusty Johnson, and it says replace broken bar studs, customer supplied studs, no bar, no chain, with power head, no sprocket cover. So I've done some evaluation on this and gathered up some of the tools that I want to use, and this is not the first video that I've done on this repair. If you want, another version of this, I go into a little more detail about the tools that I choose and the reasons why I choose those tools, and the proper methods. And this one is going to be a little difficult because the first one that I did, only one stud was broken, the front stud. That other saw, the rear stud was still intact, even though it was damaged, but it was not broken. This one presents a little bit of a problem because this has got the full wrap handle. And even though I have my favorite drill, this is a Snap-on PDR 3000A, and it has a very, very narrow, slim profile. The body isn't really any wider than the chuck, and I like this drill a lot because it is very ergonomic. When I hold this thing and push, it wants to push very straight. And as slim as this drill is, the handlebar's in the way, and I'm not going to be able to work on the rear stud. And I had hoped to do this repair in one take, no editing, but often my videos are too long, so I am going to pause the camera in order to do the second one. Because you don't need to see the nuts and the bolts of me removing the handle out of the way. That's just going to use up a lot of unnecessary time. I thought perhaps that I might be able to use an extra long drill bit, but unfortunately I don't have the right size. The easy out that I want to use requires a 1/8 inch drill bit, pilot bit, and that's 125 thousandths. And I've got some long drills, but they're either too small or they're too big. So I had to scrap that idea, and I will have to remove the handlebar to drill this one straight. It's in the way. So you always have to have a plan B. Start out with plan A, and if that doesn't work, you go to plan B. Now, one thing I want to discuss, and I mentioned this in my first video, there is a reason why these studs break. And if you watched my first video, you're going to know the answer to this. But for those of you who are first-time viewers, the inner bumper spike is missing off this power head. And that is a big no-no. The bigger the chainsaw that you have, the more important the spikes are. And in this case, when the inside spike vibrated and the fasteners got loose and it fell off, the owner never addressed it. He just continued to use it. And what that does is it transfers, if you can imagine, a sprocket cover mounted onto these studs with an outside spike, okay? And there's no inside spike at all. It's gone. This saw has a tremendous amount of horsepower. It typically comes with a 36-inch bar, and it's got a lot of torque, and it pulls hard. And when it pulls hard, it's going to push and push and push and push and push, and it's going to break the studs, okay? So that is the reason why the studs broke. And I'm always in favor of, when you're working on any kind of equipment, you do not want to just treat the symptom. You want to cure the disease. Because if you don't cure the disease, the symptom will come back and you'll just do it over and over and over again. So if I were to, extract the broken bar studs out of this crankcase and apply, the customer rounded these up. He brought the saw in. I think maybe he intended to try on his own, and he was just afraid that he was not going to be able to do it. But if you cure the disease by reinstalling the inside spike, then the stress is shared by both spikes together, and it's relieved off of the studs, and the studs will last much longer. Probably, if there's two spikes on the saw, the studs will never break. So always think about that when you're doing repairs. What caused it? And just don't fix the broken part. Think beyond that and think of why did that part break. And you go further and you can cure the disease, and then the symptom will never come back. So that's important, for any novice mechanic learning. Just don't slap parts on the machine and send it out. I've had a lot of crappy mechanics that work for me. And, we had Secret Agent Man, and we had the Big Asset, and we had Sniffles, and Dingus, and Gomer, and then there was Scratch. And Scratch supposedly had 40 years experience, and, he just didn't cut it. And then our newest mechanic, Speedy. And out of all those losers, I might trust Secret Agent Man and maybe Scratch and maybe Speedy. But all the other ones, if you turn them loose with a drill and a $1,700 professional chainsaw, and they drill off course and turn the crankcase into Swiss cheese, you're really in big trouble. So, this has to be done like brain surgery, and you have to have somebody with a steady hand who knows what they're doing to do it right the first time without exposing a $1,700 saw to a lot of damage. I've got my whiteboard here, and if you've seen my videos before, you're going, oh no, here comes the whiteboard. But what's going on here is both studs are broken off and they are recessed below the surface of the crankcase. And this saw is not quite as bad as the one that I did the first time around. The one that I did the first time around, the stud was broken at an angle. This was not level. And when you go in here with your drill bit, and if you don't have some way of piloting that drill bit, it's going to want to walk downhill and go off course, and you're going to drill into the crankcase. Okay, so you know, it's hard to see down in those holes. It looks like the studs are broken off more level than what I have depicted here in this drawing. But the best way to do this, and I introduced this in my first video, this is the secret tool. And if you want to see how this is made, just watch my first Stihl professional bar stud repair video, and you'll see how I made this. This is nothing more than an 8mm cap screw, and it has been drilled, precision drilled, and the hole that's in the center of it is 1.25, which is the pilot drill for this easy out. And this is a straight, non-tapered easy out. It's got splines on it, and it's an eighth of an inch in diameter. And the advantage with this style of easy out is that you can go forwards and you can go backwards. So you know, if I have difficulty backing the stud out with this easy out, and I run into some thread damage here near the top of the hole, I can advance the broken stud deeper into the crankcase, and the oil tank is in here, and the oil tank is accessible. And you know, I can advance the stud through to the inside of the oil tank and retrieve it with a magnet. And so that's the reason why I've chosen this style of extractor. You know, the one that I did before, I drilled the pilot hole all the way through. And this time I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to drill only halfway, and I'm going to, you know, insert the easy out, and I'm going to try backing the stud out, and if it doesn't want to come out, I'm going to use vice grips and pull the extractor out, and I'm going to drill the rest of the way through, and then install the easy out again and advance this broken stud forward into the oil tank. So I'm just trying to save some time. I'd have to do half of the drilling. So I'm going to set this up here and make sure this is really tight. And the front stud, the handlebar is not in the way, and there is more damage on the front one. Looks like okay, yeah, see the customer, he might have been poking around in there, and it looks like he's done some damage here. And you know, so that's not so good. I'm just hoping that it won't be a problem. Give it a shot. Okay, so this is my secret tool. so what I've done is I've threaded that tool down into the hole, and it's now butted up against the broken off stud. And that is going to allow me to drill dead center. It's not going to get a hold of this this tilted angle and walk downhill and drill off course. And I always like to use cutting fluid. Fill up the hole. I think I'm going to go turn the air compressor off so it doesn't turn on. All right, now I'm going to remove the tool. And let's see here, maybe. Right. Get a good look at that. So I'm dead center. There we go. Now they do put Loctite on these studs at the factory. And so if this doesn't want to come out, one thing that you can do is you can use a heat gun or a MAP gas torch, and if you warm up the crankcase, if it reaches a high enough temperature, that Loctite will let go. And that, if this doesn't want to come out, I am going to try some heat. It's coming out. Now it's getting tight. It's getting to the area of where the customer damaged the threads. Try some penetrating oil. Okay, it does not want to come out. I'm going to go in. Okay, it is now inside the oil tank. And I am going to pause the camera now, and I am going to remove the handlebar, and I'm going to go fishing in the oil tank and retrieve that. So I'm going to make the video shorter. I'll pause, come back. Okay, I'm back again, and as you can see, I've removed the handlebar. I saved you the tedious time of watching me nut and bolt that off of there. It only took about 5 minutes, not too bad. And I have opened the oil cap, and the oil tank was empty. That's fortunate. And I used a magnet, and I retrieved my easy out and the broken stud. And looking at this stud, to me, it looks narrow here, narrower than the new stud, and it looks slightly tapered, and that makes me think that possibly the customer, good old Thrusty Johnson, he must have used guerrilla force on the bar nuts, and Godzilla'd the studs and snapped them in half. It may not necessarily be the inside spike or lack thereof. He might have just over tightened them and snapped them. And I guess some people have complained about this stud design over the earlier, the 066 and the MS660 and some earlier generations of this saw, where the stud was fully threaded all the way up to the collar. And I believe what Stihl is attempting to do here is make a relief point and extend the crankcase thickness deeper than the earlier models. And so if it's going to break, it's going to break here and save the threads from pulling out of the crankcase. And if you pull the threads out of the case, you're talking about a lot more work. And one of these days, I'm going to do a crankcase bar stud helicoil video. And, because that's crucially important. If that's done improperly, it will fail. If it's done by an expert, it will be stronger than the original threads in the parent material of the crankcase. But these are not stripped, so I am not going to be drilling these out and putting helicoils or time certs or keen certs or whatever in there. We're going to go back with the original studs. The damaged portion is above the threaded part. The damaged area is up near the collar. So I'm not too concerned about that for strength. Now I have to remove my easy out of this broken off stud. I'll do that in a minute. But I'm going to proceed on, now that the handlebar's out of the way, and do the second one. Okay, so once again, my drill pilot is threaded down into the hole and is now butted up against the top of the broken stud, and that is what is going to allow me to drill perfectly straight and not go off course and get into the crankcase. Okay, so I am going to pause the camera and I'm going to get my easy out of that broken stud, and we'll go on to stud 2. Okay, this one's moving. I think this one might come out the top. It seems looser than the other one. The other one felt like the easy out was going to give up and break. That's why I decided to advance the broken stud inside, trying to back it out over damaged threads. It's going to bind up and then the easy out will break. And that's where Sniffles or Dingus or Gomer, they wouldn't have a chance. This one's going to come out. It's getting easier and easier. second one. So that was success. Okay, the next step is I've already prepared my Loctite. They want Loctite USA 272 on here. This is 271, which is a red, and it's pretty strong. I'm going to be using that, and I'm just going to degrease the holes a little bit. So if that's oil free, Loctite will cure better. And in my first video, I explained why I use this snap-on stud installer. This removes and installs. The ones supplied by Stihl only install, they do not remove. I guess they do have some roller type, cam roller types that will remove and install, but their newest ones only install. And I have set this torque wrench for 17 foot-pounds. The shop manual calls out for 23 Newton meters. I had to convert that. And I like to, better use of the torque wrench is pulling rather than pushing. And my stud installer has to be tightened a little bit loose. There it is. Okay, so that's tightened up to factory torque. Go on to stud number 2. Apply my Loctite, red Loctite. Better technique is to pull on the wrench rather than push, and there it is. So I guess some mechanics, or less knowledgeable chainsaw people have criticized this stud design. However, it does save the crankcase of the saw. The stud fails first before the threads pull out of the case. and then it's more of a minor repair. So, you know, if I hadn't had the whiteboard and done all the talking and the explanation, the job would have been done in about half the time. Now, I do want to point out something that I noticed. I need to go back on here with the inside spike, and just like in the other video, the spike mounting screw is broken off in the crankcase, and that's why the customer did not remount the inside spike. He just let it go until everything failed. And so I'm prepared for that. I have a little brother to my bar stud tool. I have a 5mm miniature version of this, and that's going to go down into this hole, and I'm going to be using a smaller drill bit, and I'm going to pilot drill the broken off lower spike mounting screw, and I'm going to use, I don't have this style of easy out small enough. I'm going to have to be using a tapered easy out, this one, and a small tap wrench. And if I don't do that, and I just send the saw out with no inside spike, these studs will fail prematurely. All the load will be pushing on the outside spike and the sprocket cover and pushing on the studs, and they'll break. And this screw, the one that's supposed to go in there, at least on the lower mount, it is a special screw. It's a 5x20, and it's got dry adhesive on the threads so it won't back out. It also has an additional flat washer, a captive flat washer. But the important thing is that it is one grade higher in strength than all the other fasteners on the Stihl power head. It's 9.8, and that's in metric bolts, that's equal to a grade 8 in an SAE American bolt in strength. So you never want to substitute you know, the wrong part number for this lower spike screw. You use the right one. We sell a lot of them. They vibrate out. It's a very high stress point on any professional chainsaw. So I don't think you need to see me you know, go ahead and drill this and extract that. You can see that in part 2 of my first video, where I drill it and extract the broken off spike mounting screw. You see how it's done. It works. It's successful. I'm going to put the saw back together and with the inside spike, and put the handlebar back on. Maybe do a few other little maintenance things, and give it back to the customer. He's probably scared to death to try to get these out, because it looks like he tried to get the front one out and he was just boogering up the hole. So that's going to be it for today for the Unknown Mechanic. You know, if you like the video, you know, thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to be doing a lot more. And leave some comments. Nobody ever leaves any comments, so I don't really know if I'm doing a good job. If you want to see a specific repair, you can request, and I'll see what I can do. So that's it for today's video.